Are you overwhelmed by the challenge of personalizing communication for thousands of students? That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. From nudging prospective students to guiding those already on their journey, AI assistants don't just automate, they write, build, and optimize every step of your digital campaigns. Discover how at element451.com/AI team.
Welcome to Talking Tactics, a podcast that gets you results. Each episode features a single tactic, implemented with limited resources, that move the needle in some way. I'm your host, Day Kibbles, Vice President of Strategy at Ology, a marketing and branding agency for education. Join me every other week for discussions with some of the most clever folks in higher ed worldwide, doing the work day to day, just like you. Talking Tactics is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, a leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Check them out at element451.com. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Talking Tactics. This episode is dropping right in the middle of the holiday season, and I'm excited to actually have a holiday-themed tactic for you today. Laura Rudolph has 18 years of experience in higher ed and is the founder of Square One Consulting. She's here to share how she used a holiday gift guide sent to parents to reveal which students were highly likely to enroll. And they saw 70% of the clicks on that gift guide actually translated into real deposits. You know how I love a clever tactic like this, and I also love that we're on theme for the season, so I can't wait to get into the details. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you. Happy here. It's very fitting to have our Rudolph on Talking Tactics for a holiday episode.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because, what a last name.
I know.
What a last name.
I say it all the time, so it's okay.
Perfect. It's perfect for the season. It's perfect for this tactic. We could not be more on brand right now. So, all right, take us back to that time that holiday season, when you were trying to assess how many students would deposit. What was the situation and what were you trying to solve?
Yeah, so I was working at a small liberal arts college. We had a very regional student base. About 70 to 80% of our students were very regional. We had some leadership changes, some staff turnover, and with those changes comes new priorities and new goals. And we really relied each year on 3 application deadlines. One was around November 1st, one was around December 1st, and one was February. But what we knew as an institution is that a majority of our yield would come from students who applied by that December 1st deadline. And so we really wanted to get an idea of where we were in terms of structuring the class. And we didn't have deposit data because really those deposits don't come in until much later in the cycle.
It's too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're waiting for those financial aid packages to roll in. And so we don't typically see those deposits until significantly later, right? February, March, April, and unfortunately even as late as June. But we didn't want to ask students directly, are you interested in depositing now?
Hey, are you going to deposit or what?
Right. We didn't want to put that pressure on them. But honestly, this was soon after the NACAC changes had taken place. And so there was a lot of sensitivity around deposit pressure at the time. And so we were trying to come up with an idea that might help us glean an idea or a glimpse into the lives of those students at this point in time, just to get an idea of maybe where they were and how high we were on their list.
Okay. So what was that idea? How did you come up with
Well,
that?
I had a new baby. I was a brand new parent, and I was actually up feeding my daughter at 2 a.m. I'm very clearly.
As one
does, right? And I'm rocking and feeding, and I'm on my phone, right? I'm on my phone, and I'm Christmas shopping, and not even 1-year-old. And it just kind of dawned on me what I was doing. And it was late October at the time. And I thought, oh, parents, right? I was a new parent. I am shopping for my 1-year-old. Right? And I was very excited about it. And I thought, I'm sure that parents that are going through this experience of, this life change for their student, they're probably pretty excited for them. I'm sure there's a lot of sadness too, right, that comes with it. But there's also, this excitement to prepare them for what's coming next. So I thought maybe the best way to get a glimpse inside the mind of the student is actually through the parent and doing it as discreetly as possible. So I wanted to put myself kind of in their shoes and what are the gifts that they are potentially thinking of for the holidays for their student. So the idea is let's curate a gift guide in an email that is just going to discreetly identify these high probability admits. And internally, we call them hot admits, right? Like hot, medium, it's kind of a temperature, take a temperature of them. And we did this through this gift guide, and we were going to send through to parents of admitted students. And within that email, we would provide a very exclusive bookstore account. So we kind of see this as a low stakes opportunity for families to demonstrate their commitment to our institution without just saying it outright. So
right, because no one's going to buy branded merch if they're not intending to
exactly.
go there. That's so clever.
Our idea and our understanding is that parents are very unlikely to invest, like you said, in college merchandise or to really even, utilize our resources unless they have a very high degree of confidence that their student is going to roll, or if they don't even have a significant trust in our institution. And so tracking engagement metric and those coupon redemptions, the idea is maybe we could uncover some subtle indicators that there's some commitment that exists there. And that's what the plan was. So, our theory is, can we use these behavioral signals like coupon usage to assess their deposit intent in the end?
I love that. And also I love how you're really targeting parent behavior here. Like we all do it. And it's usually late at night at some point on our phone. We're like, what are we going to get? What are we going to buy? All of the purchases that I make, I'm going to tell you this right now, are either late at night or early in the morning on my phone when I'm clearly not thinking very clearly. So I love that it's taking advantage of this natural parent behavior that is so much closer to our intent before the rational brain kicks in and is like, you know what? No, I don't really need this right now. So love it. So talk to us about that gift guide then. So what items were in it and how did you choose what to put on it?
So in my role at the time, I was in enrollment marketing, and at heart of my role, I also managed our campus visit experience because we really saw our campus visit at experiential marketing, right? And so I had access directly to our student ambassador team, who are our tour guides. And so I went to them to help us identify what are some of the modified items, right? I wasn't going to necessarily take a stab at it myself. I'm not a college student. And so I went to them because I also wanted ID for them to identify items that might not be obvious for the parent. I wanted them to think about what are the things that you really could use in your dorm room that would help you study, things that help you get around campus or get around the city that we were in. And so that was kind of the first instinct for me we need to utilize our current to help build this guide. The second is we had to arrange a discount with our store. And so those are the two things that were kind of a very quick turn. Now, this was obviously a last minute idea as things happen in higher ed, right? And so the most important thing to us was just need to turn this around quickly. So we didn't have a lot of time to work out a full process, but we knew that we needed to get things together. So the first priority was using bookstore items wherever possible. So the number one push within our email was branded merchandise, right? So that was our primary gift was look at all these great branded items for the college, and here's the bookstore coupon, and that's where we're going to lead them first. And then we had kind of three little sections that kind of address different things the students may want while they're living on campus. One, what we kind of call little luxuries. So those are going to be subscription services. It might be a DoorDash, gift card, Netflix subscription, things that would elevate their experience, a little luxury for them in their dorm. The other are like practical gifts. And this is really where a lot of the students came into play. They thought of some things that I wouldn't have thought of. One to me that I thought was really smart was a AAA membership. So it's riding around town and they break down or something. They have the ability to, have something repaired or a flat tire. I thought that was a really great idea. A mini toolkit for their dorm room, when things break or they want to hang picture, whatever it might be. Then we had a third section that really addressed more of the mental health side, right? De-stressing component of the stressfulness of college. And so that included things like a subscription for Calm app. The institution I was at actually had a discount for that. So that's something we pushed. Things like a weighted blanket, blackout curtains, white noise machines, those kinds of things that kind of help with the de-stressing. And so those were kind of our three main areas, and those were great gifts that were created and brought to our students. And then we looked at our bookstore and we thought, how many of these things are already exclusively being sold already through our bookstore, and we would link them. And then we know that some things are not going to, right? Like a Calm subscription, a Netflix subscription. But the most important thing is that we were giving them options and building that trust with them, that we are providing them really insightful information that they might not know.
In terms of the branded items, I'm just super curious. Did you pick a few, or was it just like, go pick any here? Or were you like, no, you need a sweatshirt and a water bottle and a pen?
So, good question. So what we did is we had kind of a bullet pointed list, and we create image of like those most purchased items. Obviously, the most purchased items are the t-shirts because they're super cheap, right? Like we would have the $15 t-shirts. The other things that were really popular were the blankets. So we had an image of one of the branded blankets. Lanyards are very popular. So we had some lanyards on there. So I had to pick images of the most popular and most purchased items in a bulleted list, and then a link to our coupon. So that's kind of how we made that selection. I will say for those who were also not local to the city, we did also segment and had a section about our city that allowed us to link to local restaurants and shops where they could get gift cards for their students. We had a coffee shop within walking distance, so we linked to like where you could buy a gift card for that shop. And those are for people who weren't necessarily in the county we were in or the surrounding counties, but people who might not be as familiar with our campus. So that gave them that kind of like local experience too.
Yeah, that's lovely. So you kind of hinted at this a little bit, that you're putting bulleted lists and images and links in an email.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that? Like how did you present this gift guide? Because I'm sure some people might be imagining there's a landing page, or how did you do with this first time?
Yeah, the first go around, it was a fairly short email. We used very small little icons with very abbreviated information, links directly within the text. So it was not very long at that point in time. This was, like I said, it was a very quick turnaround. So the most important thing to us was getting the information out. And we just didn't have that time, especially because it was close to the holidays. And, everyone's wrapping up on campus and finals were happening. And we were hitting our first deadline. And so we had lots of things we were juggling as an office at the time. And we thought the most important thing is getting this out quickly. And higher ed is not known for its being expedite things. And so we wanted to make sure that
What do you mean?
So we wanted to make sure
Yes.
that was thing that we actually were able to get in the hands. And so we made it pretty abbreviated, pretty short, small icons. And it was, more list-based and bullet points, and that's okay. And honestly, it worked. So That was the most important thing for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's okay, right? We don't have to overthink it, especially when you're trying to just do things fast. Okay, so you hinted a little bit at this too. You said the first time the email was short. So talk to us about some of the challenges that you learned in that first year, and then kind of what changes you made as I assume you did this again. So just talk to us about some of those learnings and those challenges.
I think the greatest challenge overall was the process. It was, how can we make this more streamlined, remove barriers? As I mentioned, in year one, there was a couple of hangups, right? Number one, it was a quick turnaround. And so we didn't have a lot of time to think about, design and landing page and, all of these great things or ways.
The user experience.
Right.
Yeah.
The user experience at that moment in time was not something we had the luxury and in time to think about. One of the biggest hurdles was that specific discount codes were not possible at the bookstore in the time that we had allotted. So we just had a 10% coupon that was given to us that already pre-existed. And so we could really only track email engagement. And because it was such a short time period, there was no real follow-up to deal in year one. And so that was kind of our biggest challenge in year one. In year two, we started earlier, which was definitely great. But we had some challenges. And one of them was with our bookstore, to be able to track a coupon code, it ended up being more cumbersome than we anticipated. And so the process was that they wanted to send them to a landing page where they entered their information and email address, and then they would send that code to their email. And we want to eliminate as many steps as possible to get someone to take an action. And that was just adding additional pieces to the experience that we did not want. We did have time to put in follow-ups and reminders in year one. And so we would have had a greater opportunity to connect with those parents had we maybe made it a series of 3 emails, and maybe we had put a text message in there, right? And we really made it an experience rather than the one-off email. And as you mentioned, in year two, we were, happy how the first year went. So we wanted to put more things in year two. So the email became a little more immersive, and there were more things, everyone wanted to add to it, and the students wanted to add. And so it became longer, which is not obviously what you want in an email, but that's kind of what our experience was. And of course, with the data issue, we had an issue with tracking it in our Slate instance. We wanted to really improve those analytics looking ahead to be able to flag these families earlier in the purchase experience. So then we could get our admissions counselors on outreach and follow up to those, families that we knew might have a higher likelihood of yield. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioning these cumbersome processes really took me back to the N+1 conversations I used to have with folks wait, but if you can generate it with their email address, why don't you just generate me 1,000 at a time with their email addresses? And it's so frustrating. So, oh man, you really took me back there. But the lesson is it can be done. You just need to have time to push. And it works even if it's not perfect, because I want you to talk to us about the results, Laura. It works even if it's not perfect. So Share with us what you saw in year one and what you saw in year two.
Yeah, we were really excited with the outcomes for both the first year and the second. In the first year, we sent this around November, mid-November. We sent it to all of our admitted parents. I do want to take a note that we really did this as a one-to-one email. When we're looking at the results, we're not looking at every individual parent, because we don't want to look at the individual parents. We want to look at the households, right? So we may have emails for mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad. So it might be 4 emails to one student. And so the results that we ended up pulling, we wanted to make sure we weren't looking at those as 4 individual people. The student is influenced by all of those parents. So of the families who received the email, so the admitted group in one, 20% of those students would end up depositing in the end. But of those who clicked the email, 70% of students deposited. And that just showed to us a ton of intent to enroll by those individuals who just clicked on the email, just the engagement and clicking through alone. It really, surprised myself as well. That's why in year 2, we really wanted to add more things to the email, is because it performed so well in year 1. So in year 2, a couple of things got in the way. We sent it a little bit normal, but it was still in early December. Of all the admitted students, parents that received that email, 27 of those students would have deposited anyway. But of those who clicked through our coupon links, so we actually had a tracking mechanism in that second year. We also increased, so I want to mention, we increased the quality of the coupon. We did $10 off $40 or more, which if you're making a smaller purchase, dollars off $40 is a little bit better than 10% off of a purchase of $40. So we felt like that is a little bit. But anyone who clicks through that coupon, 75% deposited.
When you think about this, really, this is all about the relationship building, right? So what you wanted, your initial goal was to who is likely to deposit so we can continue that relationship or like start building that relationship. And this just gives you such an easy way to narrow down on those students with high likelihood. So you can like focus your staff on those that are really going to convert.
Exactly.
It's so
and
smart.
we were working at a small school, and I think this is an experience a lot of small schools have, which is just time allocation. Where do you need to be putting your time? And it's in developing those relationships. But when you have, 100,000 prospects in your system, you have to find a way to really start narrowing that down. And this really can help then another institution who wants to do this really narrow down who's really hot prospects much earlier in the decision process.
Yeah. And like, you did this with admitted students, but this could be pre-app. I can really see an application here with like graduate recruitment, right? Like for yourself, you buy this for yourself in the holidays, and you're not going to buy yourself a sweatshirt that isn't in the scope of what you think might actually do, right? So then you can follow up with more personalized emails and actual contact peer or staff. I just think this is amazing. Plus the bonus revenue that you might get.
Right. It's
bookstore.
a win-win situation, right? For not only the bookstore, but for yourself in enrollment. And, this experience in year 1 and year 2, after year 2, I actually left tuition and now I'm consulting. But I have a huge list of things, that we would want to do in a year 3. And things that we thought I had to.
Tell our listeners. So if anyone's listening now and they're like, I got to do this, what would be the Laura new and improved version?
Yeah, I'm going to give away the farm here, right? I'm a consultant now, so I'm happy to share kind of some of the things we had thought about in year 3. Number 1 is obviously engagement tracking needs to be improved, and maybe making this be a full holiday countdown email series, right? So instead of a single email, make it such a holiday themed series. You have bookstore features, your gift IDs, and then you have those like friendly nudges for those who have not yet made a purchase. Your reminders for final days for shipping to get there in time for Christmas always really help a lot.
Yeah.
You get those all the time around this time of year, and that really creates, like, oh, I really need to do this, creates an urgency on behalf of the parent. And so those are some things I think would have been great to build out in advance. Number 2, we need a link page, a portal page, whatever system it is that you have.
Yeah.
That was just an absolute necessity because of all the things we really wanted to start doing now that we saw that it worked, right? And I think when it comes to a landing page, there's so many things you can do. And here are some ideas that we have. Number 1, we could start segmenting based on the student. So if a student's an athlete, maybe we have a section about the sports related gear, right? Like your college's, basketball team, if they're a basketball player or a basketball parent, and the parents might want to buy some for themselves. Majors, some have departmental t-shirts and things that they sell, personas. So if you are an institution, let's say that it's a fine art student, and there's some things that might be specific for a fine art student, you could segment some of those items. I think you can also add things for pay on there. What if it's books every college parent should have, or you create your own Dabble PDF. That's your first 100 days as a college parent, and they can download that and gives you something to like kind of help them. We also were a campus ESP partner, and we had a private portal basically for our parents. And then if you push them to that and they opt in, they're definitely more connected to your school. So I think that's an additional little thing there. We considered a mini quiz, like a gift finder, like find the perfect gift for your students. And you could ask them a couple of questions, which then gives you valuable information. It also lets you identify who are the more engaged families, even if they don't convert all the way through. Parent testimonials, this was so kind of a social proof of this purchase was really instrumental in my student. I would do tons of digital support, right? We could retarget people who are on that landing page. But then, we also talked about there's a cumbersome process, right? So one of the things I had considered is, what if we worked with our bookstore to identify parents on the bookstore website and just serve that coupon automatically? And so they're not having to go through a process of putting in their email and then getting it sent to their email address and then using the coupon code. It's just that they are identified once they click through a link on the website, and it's served to them automatically and automatically put on their card. Is there an upsell option of this? So they make that purchase through and they're like, hey, if the student wants to make a deposit and you want to give them a deposit for this, like maybe we'll take $50 off the deposit.
Cute.
Right? That could be
Yeah.
a cool upsell. And you had mentioned it as well, but is there a student version that would create of this? Right? Maybe there's a graduate or a transfer student version of this that exists. Maybe it's your online populations. So maybe you have a section called remote learning essentials, and it has like desk accessories and headphones and hoodies and sweatpants, things that maybe would make an online student feel more comfortable. And the last thing we really considered heavily was, how do we maybe translate this into an automated birthday email? So we, in our Slate instance, we had the ability to, send emails for a student to wish them happy birthday. But maybe you send one to the parent 2 weeks to 3 weeks before and say, hey, for their birthday, you should buy some merchandise. And that could also be an off. So it's not just a holiday.
Oh, that is
birthday
cute.
thing too.
Yeah. That is cute, because then it doesn't just happen once
Exactly.
a year. So for folks who have all these different deadlines, right, that is a great way to measure intent all throughout. I love all these ideas so much. I'm like, I would buy something probably. I would mess up the data. I'd be like, this is such a great service. I love it.
I think that we just need to think more intently about engaging parents in the process. And we've had, at our institution, we had a parent-specific communication flow since 2016, and there are still institutions that don't. And this is just note that if you don't, do it, because I think that there's so many insights that can be made through the parent areas. And I think it's only going to be more critical as we change through our generations and we see the parents are becoming even more influential in the student's decision process.
That's right. And that relationship's becoming a lot closer too. So they're making the decision together in many ways. So I want to add to that. If you don't have a parent communication strategy, definitely do it. But it's different than what you're sending your students, everyone. It's not a copy paste. It is not a add them in. It is very different than what the student needs. So really, like Laura's recommending, put yourself in the parent's shoes, not just in terms of what holiday gifts they might buy. I love that too. Do that too. But all throughout, what are the things that they need? I love that idea of the first 100 days as a college student parent. That's so cute.
Yeah, I think you have to be really intentional and really put yourself in their shoes. And, that's something that I do for a lot of my clients is parent communicate, because I think sometimes we're so focused on the student and really hoping the student is the driver of the college experience. And I think that's a great hope to have. But I think in reality, we have to know that the parent weighs very heavily in this process and are very, very engaged, even if we don't see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a great lesson to end the episode on. Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing this super clever holiday tactic. It might be too late for folks to implement it for this year's holidays, but if you're listening to this now, you have a full year to figure out those bookstore tracking codes.
Yes, and you might need that long. I don't know.
You might. We both come from higher ed. We know that it might take that long. So if folks want to contact you, ask more, curious about how you can help them, where can they find you, Laura?
Absolutely. I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. My name is Laura Rudolph, like the reindeer. You can also at my website, it's Square One, ONEKY for Kentucky.com. And you can also email me at laura@squareoneky.com.
Awesome. So make sure your LinkedIn and your website are in the show notes for folks as well. Dear listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. As a holiday gift to me, please follow and subscribe to keep walking the walk and talking the tactics. The Talking Tactics podcast is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions pros find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Jenny Lee Fowler, Jeremy Tiers, and so many of your other favorite leaders in higher ed too. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Check them out at element451.com.